So here we are talking about a situation. So it's a long time ago. Even now, it's a former Soviet Union. Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. And so now Soviet Union is gone. So it's a communist party, right? Communist. Communist means people poor a lot of things, including food. And so the situation is we are talking about chicken, okay? Chicken. But there's not enough meat to go around. So what does that mean? That means we only have limited supply. And so each one can only get a small amount. But you know, you have to feed so many people, right? And so much limited supply. What does that mean? That means you have to queue in line. So it's called first come, first serve. So usually, this kind of situation also happen in Taiwan. So for example, Costco, they used to sell something very cheap, right? So if you want to get it, you have to go early, and there's a long line. The same thing, because cheaper goods, you know, there's only limited supply. And so here in this case, that you have to buy chicken, but also you have to stand in line. So you have to pay two prices. The first price is the price of chicken. The second price is the amount of time. The same thing when I talk about movie, right? You pay the ticket, you also have free time, okay? But then, so let us say, if I stand in line, I buy chicken, but I don't like chicken. Or let us say it's beef, okay? If it is beef, and you are Indians, Indians don't eat beef, right? And so he stands in line to buy beef, but he doesn't eat it, then you can sell it. So how much you can sell it? Depending on, the first of all is the amount of, the price of chicken, right? The second is the labor, you know, the amount of labor. And according to page 130 and 131, okay, it says that you have to wait in line for 1 hour, okay? And the amount of labor, the price of labor is $10. So the amount of chicken is, the price of chicken is $2, okay? And you have to stand in line for 1 hour. And then, so what is the real price of the chicken? It will be $2 of the price of chicken, and also $10 the price of your labor. Okay, so the price will be $12. So what does that mean? That means if you want to sell it, how much you can sell it? $12, okay? So let's move on. So now there are two issues here. One is non-transferable coupon and one is transferable coupon. So what does that mean? That means if I have this coupon, okay, I cannot give it to anyone or sell it to anyone. So really this is inefficient. So let us say you get chicken, but I don't want to eat chicken, or I say, I can use something for substitute, right? And this is inefficient if it is non-transferable. If it is transferable, it's good, right? For example, let us say Huang Jingyu, you like fish, right? And you don't want chicken. So you can sell your chicken voucher to me. And then I can, let you eat more fish and I eat more chicken, right? So this is, we mentioned this before, it's called Pareto Optimality, right? Pareto Optimality. Suppose there is a chance to enhance your benefit, increase your benefit, and we can do this by exchange. That would be good. So ration is not a good idea. But suppose you can have the coupons, okay, the ration coupons, to be freely transferable, okay, freely exchangeable. That would be still something good. Oh, but oftentimes in communist party, in communist regimes or autocratic regimes, this kind of exchanging opportunity usually not allowed. So that's one thing for that. Okay, so that's the same thing. Well, we have two kinds of, you see that? So this one, okay, the indifference curve, the slope of the indifference curve is much steeper, right? It means you like chicken. But let us say if you consume more or your income increase, say I exchange my ration coupons to other people, I get money, right? Then of course my taste gonna change. So the next one is flattened. It shows you that I don't necessarily like chicken. So if I have to stick to the ration coupon, that's a bad idea because the utility gonna be very bad, right? Suppose you can have exchange, then it is a different idea. Anyway, everyone got better off. Okay, we are talking about a different issue, okay? So generally the idea is that if the government wants to increase the revenue, okay, the tax revenue, if the government wants to increase tax revenue, there are two ideas. One is increase the tax rate, right? But be careful. If you increase tax rate, what happens? So let us say there is a company called Volvo. Volvo. Li Yunxiang, what's the nationality of Volvo? Excuse me? No, Wang Jiewei. No idea? Chen Zishuai. The nationality of Volvo. Taiwanese say Volvo. Volvo. Chen Zishuai, no idea. Li Yunxiang. Volvo. What's the nationality? Excuse me? Go ahead. Right. Nationality. I'm Taiwanese. This is my nationality. So what's the nationality of Volvo? No. Nationality. Means which country? Which country?
French.
No. Qiu Guangmin. Volvo. 苏伟伦 No idea. 郑怡林 Excuse me? Japan? 吴佩妮 姚彦敏
瑞士
I ask you which one? You ask me again. Which one? I'm talking about tax rate, okay? Northern Europe, okay, Northern Europe, you have Norway, Sweden, and Finland. All these countries, they have one, may I say slogan? Probably slogan. It's a from cradle to graveyard. From cradle to graveyard, what's that? 说一种 Cradle. Right. Graveyard. Huang Caiping, graveyard. Is oftentimes when you mention graveyard, you also mention this. What's this? Graveyard, yard. Excuse me? Right. So, for Northern European countries, they are very wealthy. So they take care of you from cradle to graveyard. So the moment you are born and to the point you rest in peace. Okay, anyway. But if the governments want to take care of people from the birth to death, it takes a lot of money, right? So the tax rate is very high. So Volvo used to be a Swedish company, but then it moved to, as far as I can tell, moved to England, Great Britain, and now it's bought by China. It's a Chinese company now. Okay, so I don't buy Volvo anymore. Okay, what I'm talking about? Why Volvo want to move to other places because the tax rate is too high. So the point that I want to convey to you is that if you want to get as much as tax revenue as you like, that's fine, right? But if you say the tax rate is 100%, what happened? Everyone's just go away. What happened? You get nothing, okay? So let us say, this is the same thing. Let me think about it. There's a French president. I can't quite read, Hollande, right? Hollande, okay? A French president. He said, you know, all these rich men, they're just crazy, you know, exploit people. I want to get a tax rate of 75%, okay? What happened? Everyone just want to move, right? And this is an issue everywhere. So President Biden, he talked to a lot of political leaders in other countries. He said, we need to coordinate. That means if my tax rate is high, you cannot be that low, right? If your tax rate is low, my company is going to move to your country, right? And so I'm going to lose my tax revenue, and it's not fair. Of course, if you're Ireland, okay, what would you do? Or if you're Taiwan, what would you say? It's my policy, right? It's my tax policy. Don't interfere with my policy, okay? But because, okay, there are so many economic issues involved, and governments also care about tax revenue. So let us say my company moves to Ireland, okay, the tax rate is 15%, but why don't you move to Caribbean? Because the tax rate in Caribbean is 0, right? And so a lot of companies and also a lot of countries, they are dealing with this kind of issue. So this tells you, okay, the situation here. If you want to increase your tax rate and to increase your tax revenue, that's fine, but there's a limit. Okay, so Laffer, this is a person, the name of a person. Laffer tells you that, you know, there's a certain amount of optimal tax rate you can have. This is absolutely not right, okay? Because if you have 100% tax rate, I make $100, it's all yours. I get nothing. What would you do? Get away from here, right? So you don't tax people too much. Because if you tax it too much, actually you're going to get nothing. So this is the idea about Laffer and the optimal tax rate, okay? So this is what we have done before, right? This is the amount of leisure, okay? We done it, okay? And this is 24 hours, remember that? And this is the amount of consumption that you have, okay? So you have substitution effect, income effect that I have shown you before. So let's move on. So income tax cut and the results in less work. So we mentioned this, right? Actually, there are two effects, right? Wage rate goes up. You have substitution effect and you have income effect. Sorry. Wage rate goes up, substitution effect, you're going to work more. For income effect, you're going to work less. And remember that we talk about overtime pay, right? Overtime pay. Sorry. Wu-Penny, what's overtime pay? Right, exactly. And what's the effect of overtime pay? Remember that I have told you before, and it's related to this one and this one. So what's the one of the effect to have overtime pay? Overtime pay is high, right? 1.5 times the regular pay or 2 times the regular pay, as I have said. Overtime pay actually get rid of the income effect. Okay, keep the substitution effect, but gets rid of the income effect. Suppose you don't have overtime pay, and all the overtime pay will be in terms of the regular pay. You will not really work overtime. Okay, so these are the pictures that we have drawn before, and also the idea about that. So basically, this textbook talks about one thing. Okay, there are income tax. Okay, you can have two things: income tax or excise tax. What is excise tax? 苏一总, what's excise tax? Excise tax also, it's similar to sales tax. Okay, so for example, when I just get to the U.S., if you go to supermarket or other store, if you buy food, generally it's tax free. But let us say if you buy pencil, you buy pens, you buy a lot of other things. Let us say detergents, or shoes, clothes. If you buy all these kind of stuff, there will be tax. It is called excise tax and sales tax. Actually, in Taiwan, we have that, But the difference is that, so for example, when I first time went to the U.S. and went for shopping, I buy something like $10, But then the total amount is $10.80. When I ask the clerk, because I just got there, right? I have no idea about all these things, and I buy something for $10 and you charge me for $10.80. Why? And he said, "You are talking nonsense. You have to pay sales tax." For example, if you buy McDonald's, that's the same thing. If you look at the receipt, you get a total $100, but probably the goods, the hamburgers that you buy is 95. What happened to the other $5 is the tax, But in Taiwan, it's included in your receipt, included in the price. But in the U.S., it's extra, So that's the difference. So, when we talk about income tax and excise tax, actually, it deals with two things: substitution effect and income effect. We're gonna discuss this again when we get to this point. But let me see. Anyway, we will do the homework. When we get to the homework, there will be a question on all these things. We talk about this part. This explanation is something has to do with the point that I mentioned: income tax and also excise tax. So empirical evidence on work effect. We want to know, well, we tax you more, If the government tax you more, you're going to work more or work less, So empirical evidence of the impact of tax cuts work efforts is mixed. What does that mean? If government tax you, if the government tax you, your income going to go down, right? Supposedly, your income goes down, you should work more, But the other thing, you look at it. So let us say, for example, let us say now I, each hour earn $160, suppose like this, and no tax, But when there is a tax, say I have to pay $60, $60 too much, anyway, 150, So because I have to pay $10 tax, so my income goes down. My income goes down, I should work more, But you look at that. When the wage rate is 160, if I take 1 hour off, my opportunity cost is $160. But now, because I have to pay $10 tax, my opportunity cost is $150. So the cost before the tax, it is $160, and now it's $150. So my leisure, okay, the cost of my leisure goes down. So then I should take more leisure. So there are two effects here. And he said the impact of tax cuts on work effect is mixed. Of course, tax cuts is the reverse of what I mentioned. Okay, tax cuts means I pay less tax. Okay, I get more pay. Okay, I get more pay. But really, in terms of, okay, this part will be macroeconomics. Okay, this part will be macroeconomics. Generally, we talk about supply side economic. Okay, supply side economic. 谢谢你，what is supply side economics? Supply side policy. Supply side. What's supply? 郑义林 supply side. Supply side. 李玉祥 supply side economics. Supply side. Right. Supply side economics. That's the usually that's the belief of the Republican Party. If we cut your tax, okay, okay, you should work more, okay, because you can get more income, right? You can get more income, okay. So let us say, in the past, the tax rate is 25%, okay, and now it's 20%. What does that mean? You can keep more money in your pocket. If you can keep more money in your pocket, you should work harder, okay? Because of what? Because the opportunity cost of leisure goes up, okay? The opportunity cost of leisure goes up. But then, when we talk about this, okay, in terms of macroeconomics, generally, it doesn't work because there's the income effect, right? In the past, you can keep only 75% of your income, and now you can keep 80% of your income. Your income goes up. So sometimes you can see people work less rather than work more. Robert Barrow, okay, he's a very famous economist, and Ben Bernanke. So who is Ben Bernanke? Huang Xiuwei. Who is Ben Bernanke? You should have heard of him. Ben Bernanke. I mean, for Su Yizhuo or Zhuang Bozhao, if you don't know him, that's understandable. But for you, Wang Jingyu, who is Ben Bernanke? In my college days, we used the textbook written by Robert Barrow. He's very famous. And he also worked at World Bank, as far as I can remember. Wang Jingyu, no idea? What else? Huang Chaiping, Ben Bernanke. Liao Yanmin, Ben Bernanke. Wu Peining. He is the chairman of Federal Reserve. He used to be a chairman of the Federal Reserve. Okay? So they say there is little evidence to support the Laffer curve. I have no idea because I never checked the articles related. Basically, I consider myself a microeconomist. So their works, I haven't got time to, check their work, so no idea. And the other one, economist Lawrence Lindsay, he found that the wealthiest taxpayers pay more taxes after the tax cut. I think this is nonsense. This, for example, let me tell you one example here. Two persons, okay? Let you guess which one pays higher tax rate. I'm talking about tax rate. Okay, one is Warren Buffett, and the other is Warren Buffett's secretary. So which one pays more tax rate? I mean, in terms of tax rate. 谢金佑. Two person, Warren Buffett and his secretary. You know Warren Buffett, right? No? Really? Zheng Yiling, Warren Buffett. Who is Warren Buffett? Buffett? Wang Xiuwei? Zhuang Bozhao? Exactly. So who pays? I mean, I'm talking about tax rate. Okay, not tax, the amount of tax. I'm talking about tax rate. Which one is higher? Warren Buffett or his secretary?
Secretary.
His secretary, yes. Because his secretary pays the tax based on her labor, okay? And Warren Buffett pays tax based on capital income. In the United States, capital income, the tax rate for capital income is lower. So is it fair? No, it's not. But anyway. So anyway, let us move on. These ideas are controversial, okay? These ideas are controversial. And as I said, so the impact on tax cuts, the impact of tax cuts on work effort is mixed. What does that mean? That means you can be positive or negative, right? Mixed, no idea, okay? So, but as far as I can tell, supply side economic policy don't work, okay? You usually want to cut tax and encourage people to work more. Generally, it does not work that way, okay? It's a tax cuts, savings, and borrowing, okay? We have done a little bit of this in chapter 4, right? Remember? This is part of the material in chapter 4. So anyway, we forget about this, but the idea here is quite interesting. So it's talk about tax rate here, okay? So remember that when we discuss it, we don't have tax rate, right? And so you add tax rate, so 1 minus T2. So this is the amount you keep. The example we discussed before doesn't have this, right? Okay. So with tax rate, it still is the same thing. If you have some time, you can work on it, and it's very interesting exercise. For this part, we want to skip it. Okay, a little bit more difficult. It talk about income elasticity and also the present consumption and future consumption. Okay, let's skip this part. And also this part will not be in the test. Anyway, let us read a little bit here. It said, again, empirical evidence is split. Split means mixed. So there's no short answer. It's not simple yes or no, okay? It's split on whether tax cuts increase or decrease savings, okay? Because of what? Because you have people rely on savings. You have people rely on lending, okay? So it's different here. So he said there is evidence that in the United States, saving rate decreased in the 1980s after large tax cuts of the early 1980s, okay? And then also evidence in the capital gains taxes paid by high-income taxpayers also increased, suggesting an increase in investment activity by the wealthy. So as I say, Warren Buffett and his secretary, they have two different income sources. One is from capital gains, and the other one's from labor. And generally, in the United States, they encourage people to have investments, and so that can get capital gains taxes cut, okay? Because generally the tax cut applies to the companies and the investors. So to a certain extent, this is not fair, okay? Okay, so we come back again, excise tax and general sales tax. So excise tax is the tax on particular goods, okay? Cigarettes, liquor, gasoline, okay? And general sales tax is on the all goods consumed. But basically, what we want to talk about is here. In Taiwan, we have fuel tax. Okay, 书一组, what's fuel tax? 燃料税. So how do you pay for that? You ride a motorbike, right?
No.
You know? Really? 정보상, you ride motorbike.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you pay the fuel tax?
When you
1 year certain amount, right? That's what we call lump sum tax. Okay, lump sum tax. Okay, 中国商, is it fair to pay for